This is a support film for the Year 8 lesson on protest groups, part of the politics course. First thing I'd like you to do is to draw this opinion line in your exercise book. Above it we're going to be talking about the Chartists, and below it we're going to be talking about the Suffragettes. All I require you to do at this stage is to mark on this line just exactly what you know about either of these two groups. Mark an X and provide for me a little explanation. The use word because with a sentence. Obviously, if your answer is nothing, then there is nothing that you can additionally add, but you have the opportunity today to revisit this line and tell me what learning that has been made. So in today's lesson we'll be looking at protest groups, the aim of which is to understand the different types of protest groups that argued for changes in the voting system. We need to know who the main groups were, what changes they wanted and why, and try and look at the arguments and achievements that they put forward and determine how successful they were. First thing you'll be doing is reading the list of statements about elections either in 1832 or the present day and colour coding to identify which one is which. Remember, as it says here, to colour code the key. You work your way through these statements, identifying whether they represent Britain in 1832 or the present day. So, the question we've kept coming back to, why did people want change in how the country was run? You've certainly seen that the country was not run with a system that was fair, and it's not difficult to point out the faults. Some interesting explanation then that you might want to add to that spider diagram that you had of lists and faults that were wrong with politics in 1832. Before 1832, less than 5% of the population actually had a vote. Most people had no say in how the country was run. We already know that voting wasn't secret, bribery was common, and we know that many areas of high population, like the new cities, had no MPs. No one had bothered to redraw the constituency boundaries. And another factor that we've already visited when we looked at the Civil War, a middle class was emerging. Wealthier people paying lots of tax, but not feeling that they were getting sufficient say in how the country was run. In 1832, a vote was passed in Parliament to extend the vote to more people. This was known as the Reform Act, but it only increased the electorate by a small amount. But what it did do is address the issue of certain MPs, certain areas not having MPs in Parliament. However, it did not leave most of the population with a vote. What you're going to do today is you're going to study one of the two principal groups, either the Chartists or the Suffragettes. You'll need to note down these questions here, and you will need to do your research to identify what the answers are to these questions for the group that you're studying. I would suggest you focus on the group that you knew least about at the start of the lesson. Make sure your answers are clear, because you will be required to tell other people in the class about your group in order to learn from them about their group. Extension questions here are available for the Chartists and the styles in which you may present your notes. It's very much up to you, but you will have a limited amount of time in which to complete this. Same again for the Suffragettes. Present your work like this, extension questions here. Example of how you might do it. Again, at the end of the lesson, having learnt about both, researching one and being taught by your peers about the other, which was the most significant protest group? Explain yourself, and possibly tell me why the other one was not as important. To finally revisit your opinion line and to mark on what you know now and provide me an explanation to justify your decision.